So, hi, Rayna.
Hi, John.
Um, the other night at the Shambhala Center, you said something that really caught my attention about uh, kind of a reconciliation with another community member, or two, actually. I think you mentioned that there had been two recent things in your experience that had required some kind of effort and that 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 were powerful. And I wondered if you could share with other people what what your thoughts are about those that experience of yours.
Well, there were two or three, and they all involved people that I was good friends with. And some incidences happened that led to us kind of coming apart and not relating as friends, or relating as friends, but there wasn't the warmth and the ease that there had been. And in some cases, I didn't know what had happened. I was like confused about what had led to it. Um, and in at least one situation, I knew what had happened, and I took steps to apologize. And it really was a process of looking at what had happened, reflecting on the experience that they told me about, like I was hurt, or I was angry, it was painful for me, and my reflecting on what had I done to contribute to the situation, or just trying to understand what happened. Maybe there was just a misunderstanding. So there were various aspects to it. One was trying to figure out what happened, trying to see things from the other person's point of view, trying to understand how I contributed,
Yeah,
and some kind of fessing up and communicating, saying, I know that I did this or didn't do this, whatever it was, a situation of omission or commission, and being straightforward with that person.
hmm,
And in two of the situations, there ended up being a lot of space, a lot of time, years, in fact.
mm,
And so that also took a lot of patience, because particularly in one of the situations, I made multiple efforts to apologize and to say I recognize what I didn't do or what I did do.
hmm,
And at a certain point, I knew that there was nothing I could do, that it was in the other person's realm to understand for themselves and feel comfortable then coming forward again.
hmm,
And but I knew that I had done all that I could.
mm.
And then eventually, two of the people came back and got in touch and said, I'm ready to reconnect.
Wow.
And at that point, I said, well, before we reconnect, we need to kind of see what happened,
Mm,
kind of clear the air, and are we really ready to go forward?
hmm.
Because I don't want this hanging over our relationship anymore.
So I gather that all three of those cases occurred within the Shambhala community,
Two
or
did, and one was with another practitioner, but of a different
mm,
lineage. And there was another situation that was more recent that I came to understand that I had hurt somebody, and I really was very confused about what I had said and done. And as I thought about it more, I remembered what had kind of led to it. And it seemed to me that it was a misunderstanding.
Mm.
It said something that I interpreted a certain way, and then I responded, but they didn't really mean it that way. And so I was responding to something that they didn't really mean.
Mm.
And so we had a few conversations, and I feel like we're slowly, very tentatively, but very respectfully and sensitively starting to come back together. But I would say that it takes maybe at least three elements in all situations. One was self-reflection. What have I done?
Mm-hmm.
What happened? Looking at it from the other person's point of view, communicating about it, and then letting there be whatever space was needed.
Mm-hmm.
Us.
So I'm interested in some ways, like it seems that this is the kind of thing that happens in all communities. And I'm wondering whether there are things in your reflection that seem particular to our time in Shambhala or to the Shambhala community and the issues around, the life of a practitioner such as yourself.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think the first thing as a practitioner is to realize that however small or large, that I can only be responsible for my own actions and my own experience. And I can open the door.
So I made up this rule that it's a 7-minute interview, but I think it's so important what you're saying. Let's break the rule and talk a few more minutes.
Okay. So I think in some situations it can be just one-to-one. There's enough trust inherent in the relationship to do that. And there may be other times where the parties don't feel safe enough to talk just between themselves, and they need another kind of boundary or support or trust factor present.
Mm-hmm.
I think there are a lot of ways of reconciliation, a lot of different methods that I would like to see Shambhala use at this time, because there are a lot of people who are unhappy or hurt in a lot of different ways for a lot of different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we need to be a little creative in how we create healing. There's a lot of talk about, well, heal, but everybody heals in different ways and in different time periods. And I think there needs to be a recognition of that.
And one thing I hear you mentioning is that there are different levels or degrees of reconciliation or healing. That, in one case you said, well, let's talk more because I want to make sure that we don't have a shadow over our relationship. And I feel like that's kind of saying, well, we could glide along, but I want to go a little deeper.
I think, we tend to guard ourselves and guard our hearts and guard our bodies and minds. And if we're truly going to be an open community and have trust as well as intelligence, that this is where the path of warriorship comes in. There needs to be a lot of bravery in speaking your truth and a lot of openness to hearing other people's truths.
Yeah.
And I think that's where the practice comes in.
Okay. I think that's a really important point for which, maybe it's a good place to stop for now. So thank you.
Welcome.
And, we'll be in touch.
Okay. Good luck to us all.
Yeah, that's right.